Hi, I'm Jason Endon.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we just got back from the Speed Force to give you a review and recap of The Flash Season 3, Episode 9, The Present. And don't forget there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the episode, you might want to zoom back later. The episode begins in the Indus Valley, where we see that Draco Malfoy is an archaeologist in India in the past, and he opens up a box, and he's bathed in some blue light. We then cut to the present to see all kinds of Xmas decorations in Star Labs when Cisco sees his dead brother Dante. You better call some Ghostbusters, Cisco. Cisco then finds an article about an artifact that creates metas, and Barry confronts Julian about the dissertation on the Philosopher's Stone, which, if you don't know, is Dr. Alchemy's stone. Julian says that he never found it, Barry asks him about Savitar, and Julian says that Savitar is the first meta with speed. Joe then gives Cecilia all the files about aliens, which is a nice little nod to the crossover. Okay, let's unpack this a little bit. The episode started in kind of an Indiana Jones type manner. And then we also learned that Julian has a dissertation on the Philosopher's Stone. A lot of Philosopher's Stone stuff happening in here. Also a nice little wink to the crossover. What do you think about this opening? A little bit different than normal Flash episode.
Right, so I think I didn't like it very much because I completely forgot about it until you mentioned it just now.
Even though we just watched it today.
Yeah, that's how ineffective I think it was.
Literally minutes ago.
I guess I didn't care. The stuff that happens with him later in the episode I think was so silly that I just deleted it off my brain. The thing that I thought was even sillier than that was they kept mentioning the Philosopher's Stone, and now don't comment. I know that is something that is true to Savitar's origin, that is a part of the comics history, but like...
Well, it's true to Dr. Alchemy's origin.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
But like really, like the Harry Potter kid and the Philosopher's, like really? Like that was all I could think the whole time. I was like, really? I liked the Cecile and Joe interaction because I really liked them together, and I think they play together really strongly, but I'm ready for Cisco to be done with the Dante beat.
We then see Jay Garrick and the Trickster. Mark Hamill is the Trickster, although more a Joker-like Trickster, but he is the Trickster of Earth 3. He sees Barry Allen. He says, I'm seeing double. And then Jay Garrick comes to Earth 1 and talks to Barry about Savitar. He says that Savitar was the first man granted speed. He's the god of motion, and he usually sends a predecessor to prepare for his arrival on New Earth. And Barry is threatening Savitar with this power, and Jay tells Barry, we've got to be ready. Okay, so we are setting up a lot of Savitar. We got a Savitar info dump here where basically Jay knows about Savitar.
Yep.
And Jay says that Savitar only comes after you if you are a threat to him. Say if you want to he wants to steal your speed. Also interesting is confirmed Savitar is a man, just like the comic books.
Yep.
So he, apparently I assume that's going to be something to do with the season that we're going to have to get him out of this Transformers
We're gonna see what blonde guy is playing Savitar.
Exactly. What do you think about this? But first off, I have to mention how awesome it was that we just cut to Earth 3 and we got to see Mark Hamill Trickster versus Jay Garrick the Flash again. I also love that Mark Hamill shows up on the show once a year.
Yeah.
And I hope he keeps doing it all the way through because, again, it's these nice little nods back to the 90s Flash series. Okay, so Savitar info dump and Jay Garrick, the Jay Garrick spinoff show. What'd you think?
I'm all in for the Jay Garrick spinoff show. John Wesley Shipp as Jay Garrick is really special, which is so great after the disappointment of Jay Garrick being a bad guy from last season.
Yeah.
Because Jay Garrick
Teddy Sears Jay Garrick.
Yeah. Jay Garrick's a character that I really like, and I think that spinning the fact that he's the dad's doppelganger into this paternal relationship with Barry, which echoes the comic books, has been really lovely. Although I do say that I think that Mark Hamill's Trickster actually looked more like the Penguin. They painted his eyes so dark.
I think they were intentionally nodding at the Joker.
Oh,
is what they were
for
going
sure.
For. Yeah.
I mean, of course. But my first thought was like, oh, he looks like the Penguin.
We then cut to H.R. Wells telling Wally West to run, Wallace, run! And he tells him that he is faster than Barry at this point in his training. And he won't tell his dad because you do not trifle with the West household. Then Cisco talks about Dante and him drinking whiskey and them being friends. And then we find out that Barry forgot to get Iris a present like a bad boyfriend. Iris makes a digging pun, and then we learn that people were killed during Julian's excavation in India. We then cut to the Schultz building where Dr. Alchemy is blasting all kinds of energy from the stone. The two Flashes show up, Barry gets zapped, and then Savitar shows up, and Jay Garrick can see him. Barry and Alchemy fight while Barry zaps Alchemy with a lightning bolt, while Savitar chases Jay Garrick through the city and they fight. Let me just throw this out there. We're getting to see John Wesley Shipp run like a speedster with our current day special effects. This is truly a nerd golden age, friends. Savitar almost kills Garrick, and Barry closes the box in the stone, making Savitar disappear, and then Barry finally pulls the mask off of Dr. Alchemy, and we learn that it is Julian. There is so much. We are not even halfway through this episode.
Oh, man.
There is so much going on in this. Okay, first off, again, we're back to confirming again, Julian is Dr. Alchemy. I mean, what do we think about this? Not much of a surprise, right?
No, we've been told 3 or 4 times now, and it's just a little frustrating that it's taken this long to reveal it to Barry. But that has finally happened, so we can, I guess, move on with it. But that being said, I like seeing Savitar more and being more active in this episode. I think
like the whole Jay Garrick versus Savitar?
So I'm 100% in, and even though I was kind of down on having another speedster, I think he's a really interesting take on a new speedster. He's different than the other.
What do you think about this idea that you can sort of lock up Savitar? That if you close the box on the Philosopher's Stone, Savitar goes. He's somehow tied to the Philosopher's Stone. I don't know how much of a fan I am of that. Because,
it's a little convenient, right?
Right, it is, because otherwise he's like this powerful demigod. It would be the idea that if Superman was tied to a chunk of kryptonite and you could just close the box on kryptonite and Superman disappeared.
Yeah.
Because he's so powerful otherwise. I don't know. I'm interested to see how that's going to play on in the season.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's completely forgotten until the final moments that we have with Savitar.
Okay.
Because again, I think it is a too convenient way to just like, don't open the box.
Yep.
The end.
Julian then wakes up in the pipeline and he doesn't remember that he's Alchemy. Jay Garrick calls Barry his sidekick, as he is, of course, the senior partner of superheroes. And then Joe brings up alchemy and aliens and all kinds of stuff when he learns that HR and Wally have been training on their own. Joe mentions that someone else is at the wheel of Wally's head, and that makes Barry Allen realize that Julian is mind controlled. And then Barry Allen takes off his mask to reveal yet again to somebody that he is the Flash. Okay.
No.
Yeah, bad Barry. Bad. Spank. That's what I just did to you, Barry Allen. He doesn't like this guy. He doesn't know this guy. He especially doesn't know this guy since Julian just popped up in the timeline.
But Julian has done nothing to prove himself trustworthy at any time.
All right, this again comes into my problem that Barry Allen is supposed to be a super smart scientist. He's supposed to be whip crack smart, all right? And this is like the 3rd season in a row where Barry does something that I think is so idiotic that it just makes no sense. And this is obviously going to bite him in the ass.
Yes, it is.
No doubt this is going to bite him in the ass. Why would you reveal your identity? I don't care if that was your mother in that thing. If you thought your mother was being possessed by the big bad, as we used to call him in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you would not show your identity to your mom.
I think the idea is supposed to be like, he knows that Julian's not really evil and that
he knows that Julian's a good boy.
You know, like it's supposed to be some connection because Barry's so good, but it just fails in translation because it's a boneheaded move to make.
It's such a dumb move.
But this is a thing that happens a lot on The Flash. Everyone and like their mom knows that Barry Allen is the Flash.
Yep.
Like what secret identity? What secret identity?
I think it currently brings it up to like 37 people.
You're probably not wrong.
Actually, I'm pretty close if you count the entire like Legends team and the Arrow team.
Well, it was like when Martin Stein became a part of the storyline. Like Barry delivered pizza as a speedster, but in plain clothes to his house to his wife, who he'd never met before.
That's right. Julian then reveals to Barry that his sister died and he started seeing her again as a ghost. I'm telling you, somebody needs to call Ghostbusters. And she told him about the Philosopher's Stone and that would bring her back to life. That's the reason why he went to India. He found the stone, blackouts started happening, and then he learned about all kinds of deaths around him. So he ran to America. Then, of course, foreshadowing, Cisco sees Dante again. That brings your Dante count up to 3. Ding! And Dante sells Cisco on the stone and tells him to open it. Cisco opens the box. Savitar appears, and Savitar and Barry fight all over the speed lab until Wally's like, I gotta help him out, and calls Savitar, yo, metal mouth, and Savitar totally pwns Wally West. Caitlin has a great speech to Cisco to save the people that are alive right now, not just the ghost, because I'm telling you, you need to call Ghostbusters, and as Savitar approaches Barry and Wally and almost kills both of them, they close the box, Savitar disappears, and Wally West thought he had a good old time. We have the first team up of Wally West and the Flash in this moment versus Savitar. Okay. I actually thought Caitlin Snow, Danielle Panabaker,
yes,
her speech to Cisco, I actually thought was her best speech of the season.
I was going to say, I think she has really come into her own as an actor this season.
Especially now that they found the equilibrium of the Killer Frost Caitlin thing.
Yes, and I think that this was a really tremendous moment to her. And this is one of the few times where I really believe that they're like best buddies.
Yeah, true. Fair point.
Because I feel like they're like colleague friends, but they're always telling us that they're like best friends. And now I buy it, and now I'm more invested in their relationship together. But I will say that like Barry did something really stupid and just passed that along to Cisco.
Oh man,
because Cisco has proven to us time and time again that he is the most intelligent person on screen at any given time, and this is stupid.
This is really
dumb.
stupid.
Nobody likes Dante. This is dumb.
This is bonehead move number 2 for the episode.
Yeah.
And I will say this. Yeah, the Dante, I get it. Like, we've all out there, many people have lost loved ones.
Yeah.
It is a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. But also at the same time, when you are writing dramatized fiction, there are certain allowances for things that you just have to get past.
Yeah.
We are now 9 episodes into this, almost 4 months into their fake time period here. And then I think Cisco said that Dante had been dead for a while before that.
Yeah.
So I think we need to move this character along. I really do think that we need to move past Cisco being over. We're at the halfway point.
I would add on to that.
And I want happy Cisco again.
I would add on to that, too, that when we'd seen Dante in the past, he was a bad guy. He was not...
He wasn't a bad guy.
But he wasn't he wasn't a character that we empathize with, that we had a lot of time to build a relationship with. So his loss means something to Cisco where I think it doesn't mean as much to the audience.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. Like, I felt that this conversation with Caitlin should be enough to put it to bed.
I think so. I thought the crossover was going to put it to bed.
Nope.
But here we have it for another episode where it should have been dealt with at episode 3.
Well, I mean, think about, like, the perfect example of that would go back to season 1 of The Flash, where we thought we put the entire I Miss My Mom to bed, and then
it crops up every season.
And then last season, he had to, like, fix the timeline because he missed his mom again. All right, but Savitar versus Wally versus Barry, awesome.
Great.
Right?
Totally great. Every time Wally shows up, the more Kid Flash. I'm all in on that.
Great, let's keep zooming on. HR has a nice speech to Joe about how extraordinary Wally is, and then they hook Julian up to a machine that syncs Julian's brain to the stone so they can talk to Savitar. They turn it on, and Savitar starts talking to them through Julian's mouth. He tells them all that he knows their destinies, because Savitar says that Barry's future self traps him like this, and he's here to exact his wrath. And he says that he knows everything that's going to happen to them. One shall betray, one will fall, and one will suffer a fate worse than death. Okay, let's talk about this.
There's some Lord of the Rings level prophecy going on.
Some definite foreshadowing for what is definitely going to happen, I think, in Flash Season 3. I thought this scene was really cool. I thought this scene was actually very threatening. I thought it was very scary. I thought Tom Felton?
Yep.
I thought Tom Felton did a great job.
I think, he acted the heck out of being possessed by something.
I think you and me, for our predictions, we're going to save it till the end of the video, should put the ideas of who the 3 are.
Okay.
Of what his prophecy. We're gonna save that till predictions in this episode. I think each of us, our predictions should be who's gonna be the 3.
But I will say, you know what else is a major WB property that had a prediction in it? Harry Potter had a whole prediction that framed the entire device. I just see a lot of Harry Potter connections all the way through, despite the fact that this was a great scene. It screams Harry Potter to me.
There were no brain machines in Harry Potter.
There weren't, but that would have been cool. I thought the brain machine was neat.
Like the sorting hat. The team decides to destroy the stone, and Julian says it's impossible to destroy it. And Jay's like, just throw in the Speed Force. The Speed Force will kill it. And after Jay's redneck rant, they decide to team up. They're going to need both Flashes to throw it into the Speed Force. So they run in the pipeline, a time portal opens, and Flash throws the box. But then suddenly Barry is pulled into the portal. He arrives in an alley on Infantino, and he sees a TV talking about Flash villain plunder. And then he sees himself fighting Savitar, and then Savitar kills Iris in the future. Jay pulls him back to the present, and Barry figures out that that is 5 months from now, the perfect time for the finale, right? Huh? And then Barry figures out that this is why the newspaper has changed. Jay tells him that it's only one possible future, and this is why speedsters don't travel, and then Jay mentions infinite Earths, which I was like, oh, Christ, I infinite Earths. All right, let's talk about this. We get to see the future again in The Flash.
Yes.
For perfect May finale.
Yes.
5 months away. I thought this was very cool. I thought the sequence was really cool. The 2 Flashes having the team up to run through the Speed Force.
Awesome.
So
I do like the easy speedster fix of throw in the Speed Force. It'll be fine. You know it's not going to be fine.
Well, now we definitely know it's not going to be fine because Savitar apparently gets out. What do you think about this Savitar killing Iris?
I think that there's going to be like 4 Barry Allens in this scene by the end of the season, just like when we went back to Nora's death.
Oh, okay, so that's crazy. Do you think that this Savitar moment is going to be a new, like, Barry's house?
Yes.
Where we're going to intersect this?
Yes.
Even in future seasons?
I think we're going there at least twice more.
Okay.
I think...
So there's one Barry behind a tree, like, hey.
Oh my god, yeah.
And then there's
one running up a wall.
There's one Barry behind the TV. Hey. That's how Barry does it.
Exactly like that. I think...
Someone make a gif of that.
I think... I think Iris is the obvious choice, of course, to have as a red herring for someone that we killed, especially because we just killed Laurel over on the Arrow show.
Interesting.
I think that I know she's an important character to Barry, but if she's actually the character who dies, and I don't think she is, it would be like the least arresting thing that you could do because like she doesn't have a job or do anything. She just hangs out at Star Labs and kisses Barry on the steps.
But I will say that I think that twist, there is so much in this episode. That's why this video is going long.
Yeah.
There is so much in this episode. And you know what? That's exciting. And I kind of like this twist. And I like that every new act in this episode, we got something new.
Yes, but I was going to say that I like that in the scenes that come after this, you see
we'll get to that.
Barry having to like play what he just witnessed.
Indeed.
So I think it's an interesting move for like the narrative of the show.
We find out that Jay goes back to Earth 3. Barry tells them that it all worked. And then he's like, I gotta make with the Christmas spirit. And we go to an awkward Christmas party scene where HR is drunk off the eggnog and he calls Joe's girlfriend very hot. Joe realizes that his mother is an alcoholic. And then they finally give Wally the gift of his Kid Flash suit and they call him Kid Flash. Then Julian shows up and says, hey, Barry, you can be a cop again. It's all good. I don't care because you showed me you're the Flash. I'm all good, man. And by the way, cool red leather. And then Killer Frost freezes the rain outside so it snows. And Barry gifts Iris with a new apartment. Okay, so let's move right into the rating of this episode, talk about the end, because the end was all about the Christmassy stuff, and I don't feel like we need to really unpack that too much.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Barry Allen Iris, nice apartment.
Why did you just let him sign your name on the lease?
Shh, superhero. Okay, between a scale of 1 to 5 lightning bolts, 5 being the best, Ashley, talk a little bit about your thoughts about overall this episode, and then what's your rating?
So I don't generally love the Christmas episodes. Flash,
I don't either.
Flash does them every season. I think they're really silly, but I think that there is so little Christmas in this and so much other stuff that is really interesting and you know is going to be impactful in the coming seasons. I think it's a really strong finale, mid-season finale.
Mid-season finale.
Especially coming after the crossover where so much happened.
Right, yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it 4 lightning bolts. How about you?
I agree with you. I think if you were the weakest parts of this episode was the Christmassy stuff, and and they hit us over the head with it a little bit too much. It was like, let's stop with the Christmas stuff. We get it, Flash. You like Christmas? Stop.
Yeah. Where's your Hanukkah episode?
Yeah, dead on. Yeah.
Ray Palmer's Jewish.
So they had about 15 minutes of it, and there were like Cisco acted like a bonehead, and Barry acted like a bonehead. But what we learned about Savitar, what we learned about Jay Garrick, what we learned about Julian was so, I thought, interesting, compelling, and dramatic. Like just a sock to the face in every act. I think this is now my favorite episode of the season.
Whoa. Favorite
5
of the crossover?
lightning bolts. 5 lightning bolts for this episode. I think this episode beat the crossover. I was blown away. Mark Hamill was in this episode with John Wesley Shipp.
That's true.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to me. All right, so now it's time to talk about our predictions for the future of The Flash. And for our predictions in this episode, we decided to break down Savitar's predictions.
Yes.
So Savitar says, one shall betray, one will fall, and one will suffer a fate worse than death. All right, Ashley, let's break down which of the characters in the entire CW universe, or I would say Flash.
Oh, well.
No, that's not going to be. It's people in the room. It's people in the room.
Yeah.
Who is the person that will fall?
It's going to be Julian.
Okay, why?
100%, because he's not making it out of the season alive.
Okay.
The characters that they tend to introduce for a single season who are villainous or have villainous leanings and don't tie into the other shows always go...
I actually skipped ahead on you. I'm sorry. One will fall is the second one. But Julian.
They always go away. So, like, it's going to be Julian, and Iris is a total red herring.
One shall betray is actually the first one. Who's the one that's going to betray the Flash team?
Barry, because he's going to do something else. He's going to mess up the timeline, and they're going to get mad at him.
Interesting. And who will suffer a fate worse than death?
It is going to be, I think it is going to be Caitlin, because I think she's going to go full Killer Frost, and she's going to be bummed out by that. And because Caitlin kind of fills the same role that Supergirl fills on her series. They like to shunt her off to a new romantic interest every season, and I think that's going to be Jawiin, and when he dies, she's going to be all sad again.
Interesting.
So that is how I think it's breaking down. What do you think? One shall betray.
The person that will betray Team Flash is Cisco.
Interesting.
Cisco has had a very dour season. He does not trust Barry. I don't think this is enough to correct him. I think him seeing Dante is enough for him to be lured under, I'm going to bring Dante back. He is the one that's going to betray Team Flash to bring back Dante.
And how about one shall fall?
The person that will fall is Iris.
You think Iris is actually going to die?
Will die. But we are on a comic book show. And also, if you know Flash history, Iris Allen dies in the comic books.
Fairly horrifically.
Yep. And Barry Allen marries somebody else.
Yes.
But then Barry goes to the future and he finds out that somehow Iris has been saved. I think that is exactly what is going to happen here. I think somehow Iris is going to be saved at the last second, just like Captain Cold on Legends.
Yeah, you don't think she's going to stay dead.
Yes, but to our eyes and to Barry's eyes at the end of this season, dead. But she'll come back in season 4.
Interesting.
Yep.
And one shall suffer a face worse than death.
Wally West. Wally West will suffer a fate worse than death. If you notice, Wally West gets his Kid Flash costume, correct?
Yes.
Where the hell is Wally in that final scene? Let me tell you where he is. He tried to keep up with Savitar and Barry and erased to the end of the universe and got dissipated into the Speed Force.
Oh.
Also, if you remember, there's a comic book event called DC Rebirth. Who just came back from the Speed Force? Who reconstituted himself in the Speed Force? Wally West. The exact same thing is going to happen. And this Wally is going to spend the time between the 2 seasons, season 3, season 4, in the Speed Force. It's going to be the first episode of season 4 for them to figure out how to bring him back.
You're taking both of Joe West's children away from him.
And that is why Barry Allen will have the worst summer ever, because the finale is all going to be about Barry having to suffer his karma for resetting the timeline. Because his dad, his Joe West dad, will no longer like him.
Just like on Earth too.
Yep. This is gonna be a hell of a dark finale, but get ready because it's coming. I'm sorry. If
that's true, Flash gone real dark this season. They're turning into Arrow territory.
Yeah. I love your predictions, but I
think my predictions are the obvious ones.
I'm certain it's Wally, and I'm certain it's Iris.
Not Wally.
Yep.
I don't care about the rest, but not Wally. We'll see you next year, guys.
No, you need to hang around and click subscribe, because even though the Flash is going away, we're still going to be doing every Tuesday Flash theory videos. So kind of cool little videos about stuff you've never thought about before. Yeah. So make sure you click subscribe. Let us know in the comments who you think's theories is right, because we'll see you next year for more Flash. Subscribe.